Jai Gurudev Hemaji.
Jai Gurudev Bindu. Sunita joined.
Yes.
Sachin ji, can you make Sunita co-host, please? Oh, I noticed Sachin ji is not there.
Jai Gurudev Didi.
Jai Gurudev Manish ji.
Jai Gurudev Didi.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev Sunita.
Jai Gurudev Didi.
Jai Gurudev Mukesh ji. No, Ghanshyam. Ghanshyam.
Ji, ji.
Hemaji, unmute कीजिए.
Swagatam. We will begin now with Sahana Bhavatu. Manish ji, Sahana Bhavatu, please. Manish ji is not there. He got. Ghanshyam ji, Sahana Bhavatu bolna. Unmute, please.
Jai Gurudev Didi.
Jai Gurudev. घनश्याम जी, सहना भवतु बोलना, अनम्यूट करना.
जी दीदी. जय गुरुदेव.
जय गुरुदेव.
ओम सहनो भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. ओम शांति शांति शांति.
Today we will study verses 35 to 39 of third chapter. But before that, I will recap, and I would like to request the Pandits to recite the last two verses of last session. 32 and 33 and 34, please. Ghanshyam ji.
जी दीदी. 34, 35.
नहीं, 33, 34.
जी दीदी. ओम सदृशं चेष्टते स्वस्याः प्रकृतिर्ज्ञानवानपि प्रकृतिं यान्ति भूतानि निग्रहः किं करिष्यति. इन्द्रियस्येन्द्रियस्यार्थे रागद्वेषौ व्यवस्थितौ तयोर्नवशमागच्छति चेत् औ यस्य परिपन्थिनो ॐ
Jai Gurudev. We will recap the last session, verses 31 to 34 of chapter 3. So in the last session, we learned that those who are possessed of faith and who do not speak ill of others will get liberated. And it was made clear that these are two prerequisites for God realization. The word, Samskrita word that is used for not finding fault in others is Anasuya, very beautiful word. And some people have that name Anasuya also. It is important because by not finding fault in others, we can keep ourselves pure. Now, if you are trying to find fault in others and criticize them and all that, we take on the sins of other people. And because we take on their sins by finding fault in them, we fall deeper into impurity. We are on the path, we are trying to improve ourselves and become more and more pure. And we don't want to take on the impurities of other people. And in order to have Bhagavan's darshan, one has to be pure. So some of you must have heard the song before, Maili chadar pehan ke mandir mein kaise jaun? So how can I go in the temple? By wearing dirty clothes. So here cleanliness means internal as well as external. For external, we wear clean clothes, we take shower and wear clean clothes before going to the temple. But more important than that is the internal purity. Nowadays, there is so much mind pollution. When there is negativity and all the other negative feelings in us, that is all mind pollution. So on the path, we are letting go of that. We are cleansing and purifying ourselves. So we don't want to take on more impurities from other people by criticizing them. There is a beautiful Maharishi tape also in which Maharishi talked about the value of not speaking ill of other people. So we always try to remember that. And also Maharishi said, look at the good in other people. And that's very evolutionary. Then Krishna Bhagavan alerted us about what happens if his teaching is not followed. Then they lose the purpose of their life and they suffer. That's unfortunate. They don't have peace of mind. They don't have bliss consciousness. They're caught up in the boundaries. They're running after superficial joys of life. They don't have any spiritual upliftment. With all this, life goes on. Some people are unhappy and frustrated and all that. And they're also deluded about all knowledge of gunas, about what self is, etc. So for all such situations in life, self-realization is the only way to success and happiness in life. Then we also learned the truth about two very important points in our sadhana. One is we should not strain. And the second is we should not use excessive control on the path to enlightenment. We don't oppose nature. So the first point is not to strain. So what do? we do transcendental meditation morning and evening to gain transcendental consciousness, silence of Atma. And then we follow our daily routine that is easy and natural. And what is that easy and natural daily routine? We get up in the morning, do asanas, pranayama, meditation, then we go off to work and then come back in the evening, do meditation again, and enjoy time with your family, like that. So that's the easy and natural daily routine. And with this kind of Vedic daily routine, one is sure to find fulfillment in life. Maharishi gave us two very simple instructions. One is take it easy. And the other is take it as it comes. And so why take it easy? Because things are accomplished more easily when we are natural and do not oppose nature. For example, if you are swimming in the direction of the flow of the river, you get support from the river and you can swim easily. But if you are swimming in the opposite direction to the flow of the river, you can imagine how hard it can be. You have to put in a lot of effort in order to swim, and it's not fun to swim that way. And lastly, what we discussed in our last session was, we heard Sri Krishna Bhagavan saying that trying to control the mind with regards to the objects of senses doesn't work. Because in order to forget them, mind continues to think more and more of them. It is impossible to avoid the object always. For example, if you watch 20 movies a month and you want to cut it down because you know it's not good, so forcibly you're saying, today I'm not going to go to the movie, I'm going to sit at home and do something else. So you're trying to do something else, but your mind is always thinking, oh, I wish I can go to the movie and enjoy the movie, like that. So that kind of external self-control doesn't work because the mind is always thinking about it, even though you're not going to the movie theater physically. So how do we handle that? We begin TM and we meditate morning and evening. And we all know that we get inner happiness from meditation. And gradually try to decrease the number of movies you watch. If you watch 20 movies in a month, then watch only 15 the next month, and then maybe only 10 the month after. And along with that, you're doing meditation. So you are getting the inner happiness. This inner happiness is more than the joy you get from going to the movies. So the same joy you get by going to the movie, you get it from meditation. And this happiness you get from meditation, Atmananda, it stays with you. Whereas when you go to the movie, you are happy as long as you see the movie. When you come back after that, then that happiness is gone. It is limited, it is superficial, and it is transient. So with transcendental meditation, what happens? You get inner happiness, Atmananda, and you don't depend on outer objects, outer happiness. You're not looking for happiness from outside. That is the very good advantage, because it's always good to be independent. And gradually, as we grow in higher states of consciousness, we become self-sufficient to such an extent that we don't depend for our happiness on our family or friends or money or anything from the outside. We are just happy and content. So this is what we have discussed in the last session. Now we will move on to the discussion of verses 35 to 39. So I would like to request Maharishi, if he's here, to recite shloka number 35, please. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev Didi.
Ghanshyamji, you are...
Om Shreyam Swadharma Vigudha Paradharmat Swanushchitat Swadharme Nidhanam Shreya Paradharmo Bhayavaha. Om.
Sunita, you didn't get to be the co-host still?
Yes,
Are you the
I'm unable
co-host
to
now?
display.
Okay, please go ahead.
I'm unable to display, so
So I called Sachin and he's not answering.
yes, ma'am. Even I called and messaged, but there is no response.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we have to go with reading without display. So who is reading?
Anita ma'am has to read.
I'm reading the first verse.
Okay, go
followed-
ahead, please. Anita ji, please go ahead.
Okay. Jai Gurudev. Because one can perform it, one's own dharma, though lesser in merit, is better than the dharma of another. Better is death in one's own dharma. The dharma of another brings danger. Life has different stages of evolution. For the process of evolution to advance, it is necessary that one stage should give rise to the next, and in this process, each successive stage is of vital importance. Shri Krishna Bhagavan gives expression to this truth by laying down a principle which has its significance at every level of evolution. Because one can perform it, one's own dharma, though lesser in merit, it is better than the dharma of another. There are people at various levels of evolution, and each level has a guiding principle, a standard of its own. The guiding principle or dharma of a higher level will be suitable and practical for that level, but will not be so for men of lesser development. Shri Krishna Bhagavan emphasizes that a person should go by his own level of consciousness, because only by following that will he make sure of reaching the next stage of evolution. So far as the process of evolution of the life is concerned, one's own dharma is the most suitable, even though it may appear lesser in merit when compared with the dharma of another. The true merit of dharma lies in its usefulness in promoting evolution in the most effective manner. Life at one stage, when promoted by dharma of that stage to a higher stage, begins to be governed by the dharma of that higher stage. This is how, stage by stage, life evolves through the dharma of different stages of evolution. The comparative merit of the dharma of one's present state may be less than the dharma of a higher state, but its merit in its own place is greater by far. The first English reader is certainly inferior to Milton's Paradise, but it is more valuable for the student of the first grade because it is more suited to him. If a man were to try to follow a dharma suitable for one of higher development, he would not be able to put it into practice successfully and thus would waste his time and energy. This may go so far as to entail loss of the path of his evolution. Following his own dharma, should he die, he would naturally rise to a higher state of life. But if he were to die while trying to practice the dharma of another, he would die dislocated from his own level of development, in utter confusion about the path of his evolution. Shri Krishna once says, better is death in one's own dharma. And the reason which he gives is that the dharma of another brings danger. It is evident from this that there is yet greater danger to life than the phenomena of death. Death as such only causes a temporary pause in the process of evolution. A pause like this is no real danger to the life because with a new body taken after the pause, more rapid progress of life's evolution becomes possible. A greater danger will be something that actually retards the process of evolution. Hemaji, would you like me to stop here because two main points are covered in this? Or would you like me to continue? Yes, Hemaji?
We will pause here and then we will continue. So please remember where you stopped. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So here, Sri Krishna Bhagavan is saying that one should go by his own level of consciousness and do what his dharma is. Because doing his dharma will be most natural for him. And then it will take him to the next stage of evolution. And he should follow his dharma, even if his dharma seems to be lesser in merit than someone else's dharma. He should not think, oh, my neighbor's dharma or my relatives or somebody else's dharma is greater in merit, so I will follow that dharma. It should not be like that. So it is best to follow one's own dharma. But nowadays we have some complications and some people may not know what their dharma is. So in that situation, one should do something that is natural and easy. And along with that, he will follow his daily routine. Like I said before, daily routine of yogasanas, pranayama, meditation, and morning and evening meditation, and whatever activities, and then not stress too much. Otherwise, one will be wasting time and energy by trying to do something that is stressful for him. Nowadays, we see that there is so much stress. Everybody is stressed out, starting from children in school to adults. Working people are stressful, non-working people are stressful. There is a lot of stress and frustration. So it is better to take care of that situation and try to focus more on taking things easy. And also another advantage of following one's dharma is we get nature support. And other point is when we, I guess, I'm trying to think where you stopped. Okay, we will stop here.
I think, yeah, you covered the main points.
Yes, right. I thought so. Now you continue reading, please.
Yeah. So now, in following the dharma of another, one certainly produces some effect in one's life, but it will not have any bearing on one's present level of evolution, for this is solely concerned with one's own dharma. The dharma of another belongs to a level of evolution different from his own, because man has freedom of action. he is certainly capable of trying to assume the role of action belonging to different levels of evolution. This means that he is capable of attempting to perform actions suitable to the dharma of another. But if he performs such action, he loses the continuity of progress on the level from which he could evolve. This is the greatest danger to life, that one lives life, time goes by, without any progress on the path of evolution. Sri Krishna Bhagavan teaches that everyone should live according to the level of one's own dharma, for this will ensure steady progress on the path of evolution. Certainly, there are ways to enhance one's progress, but each of them starts by raising the present level and not by abruptly abandoning it. The present teaching being a discourse on Yoga Shastra, it is necessary to consider dharma not only on the level of relative life, the level of the three gunas and their activity, but also on the level of being, which is devoid of activity. The dharma of the self is eternal, while dharma in the relative field has different values at different levels of activity. Life is inclusive of both these types of dharma, the eternal dharma of the unchanging self and the changing states of dharma on different levels of life in the relative field. The teaching of this verse on the highest level is this: it is better to remain established in the dharma of the self, which is absolute bliss consciousness, than to partake of the dharma of the three gunas and come under the sway of attachment and aversion. For when a man is established in his own dharma, the dharma of the self, his activity is carried on under the direct influence of Almighty Nature and enjoys its full support. Whereas, if he partakes of the dharma of another, the dharma of the three gunas, he loses the support and patronage of Almighty Nature in cosmic life, and his activity becomes limited by the limitations of the individual life. As this principle is true for the dharma of the self, it is equally true for the dharma of the three gunas. Let not the field of activity usurp the field of self. Only thus can a man naturally live both the dharma of the self and the dharma in the field of activity at every level of evolution. The field of the self and the field of activity will be forever maintained in their full stature. Man would live eternal freedom in the midst of all success in the different spheres of life's activity, individual and social. When the body of the realized man meets with death and the nervous system finally ceases to function, the self remains established in its own dharma, the eternal dharma of being, while the sphere of the three gunas continues in its dharma by continuous change, transforming the dead body into different component elements. In such a case, death only amounts to the cessation of individual activity, leaving the self in its unbounded state of eternal freedom. Such a death is just a silent declaration of no return to the cycle of birth and death. When Sri Krishna Bhagavan says, better is death than one's own dharma, he is not extolling death. He is only establishing a principle of gaining the state of eternal being in which death loses its miserable significance. This then is Sri Krishna Bhagavan's answer to all concern that Arjuna has shown regarding dharma in verses 40 and 45 of the first chapter, where Arjuna considered dharma mainly on the level of behavior, on the level of the gross aspect of relative life. Sri Krishna Bhagavan's consideration of dharma comes from very basis of life, from the level of being, the basis of the three gunas. Considered from this fundamental level of life, Dharma will provide a solution to any problem at any stage of life's evolution. Jai Gurudev.
Okay, so first, Sri Krishna Bhagavan told us that it is good to follow your own dharma when we are living. And then he said that it is better to die in his own dharma because following others' dharma brings danger. And what is that danger? That is going back in evolution. So let us stop here for a minute and try to understand what this really means. When one drops the body, there is a temporary pause in evolution. And then one takes on another body. And evolution continues from that pause. That means whatever sadhana we did in this life, we pause temporarily when we drop the body. And then when we take another birth, we continue our sadhana from that level only. But if one takes on another person's dharma, we may not be able to continue from that level, and you may have to go back. You may be going back in evolution, and that is a danger, is what Sri Krishna Bhagavan is saying. So going back in evolution is a real danger. And this happens when somebody takes on another person's dharma. Why is that? Because the continuity of progress is not there. Let's say you're engaged in a project and you have made some progress, and for some reason you are not able to continue with that project and you take on something else. But in order to continue the progress in the previous project, you have to come back and continue from that level only. So you're losing time, you're going backwards. So that is why Sri Krishna Bhagavan is saying that it is best to stay in your own dharma. So with this, what we understand is the benefit of following one's dharma is on two levels. One is on the individual level and one is on the cosmic level. On cosmic level, it is eternal dharma. In Sanskrita, it is called as Sanatana Dharma. So what is Sanatana Dharma? It is dharma of self with capital S. It is absolute bliss consciousness. So it is best to take on this dharma of self with capital S than to take on the dharma on the individual level, on the relative level, in which that life on individual level is under the influence of three gunas. There is raga, dvesha, attachment, hatred, and all these things are involved in the individual relative level. So if you take on the other person's dharma, you are at that relative level, on the superficial level. But if you take on your own dharma, and because you are doing meditation, you are getting established in the Sanatana Dharma. So when somebody is established in his own dharma, dharma of self, his activity is carried on under the direct influence of nature, and he enjoys its full support. But if you take on someone else's dharma, that is dharma of three gunas, then you don't get nature support because he is in the relative and his life becomes limited by the limitations of the individual life. So now we will take a little bit more time to understand what Sanatana Dharma is. One, we understood it is the dharma of self with capital S. I'm sure all of you heard the word Sanatana Dharma many times, and it is mentioned in Manu Smriti, written by Maharishi Manu. It goes like this. Dhriti Kshama Damasteyam Shaucham Indriya Nigraha Dhir Vidya Satyamakrodha Dashakam Dharma Lakshanaha. This is in the 6th chapter, 92nd verse in Manu Smriti. So what Maharishi Manu is saying is that there are 10 characteristics of dharma. They are: 1, dhriti. Dhriti means persisting to do something in spite of having difficulty. Like, even though we have some difficult situation, we continue to do our sadhana because we know that it is good. Second quality is kshama, that is forgiveness. Somebody does something wrong to us, we try to forgive them. Third is dhamma, that means self-control. Fourth is asteyam, that is not to take possessions of other people. Then shaucham, we just talked about it, purity, about internal and external purification. Both are important. The next one is indriya nigraha, that is control of senses. And the control should be like in the natural way that we already talked about. Next one is dhi. Dhi stands for intellect. So we try to improve our intellect. Next one is vidya. We acquire correct knowledge. And satya, that is truth. Truth is on different levels. Truth, not speaking lies, that is one thing, but also truth stands for absolute, and we worship truth like Satya, Satyanarayana, the eternal force, the absolute value of life. Then the last one is akrodha, that is abstaining from anger. We are going to talk more about akrodha, anger, in a little bit in the last shloka of today's discussion. And the point to be noted is that we can develop all these qualities with transcendental meditation. With our regular practice, we can see if somebody is angry, the anger goes down, control of the senses increases, you become more kind to people, you are able to forgive them. And so all these are developed very naturally and easily. So life becomes easy. So these 10 qualities constitute Sanatana Dharma. And Maharishi Manu says in the next verse, he says, Te yanti paramam gatim. That means those who follow Dharma, they get enlightened. So in this, we note that all these qualities are universal. Anyone who follows these becomes noble and successful. One doesn't have to be belonging to any particular caste or creed or religion. These are completely universal. There is no mention of God in here. You have the freedom. Even though you don't go to the temple and worship Krishna or Rama or Jesus or Allah, doesn't matter. You just develop these qualities. And then even without having any particular Ishta Devata, you can practice all these and then you will become noble and successful. And if you want a God, you can make up your own God. Anybody, that is fine. But by following these fundamental characteristics that Maharishi Manu told us, the personality develops into a very noble personality. And we also heard before, dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. Those who follow dharma, dharma protects them. And Sanatana Dharma was practiced in ancient India. as a result of which there was peace and harmony in Bharat. So now let us connect this Sanatana Dharma to what we have discussed about the Dharma of self few minutes ago. We discussed that when one is established in Dharma of self, which is the home of all the laws of nature, one gets nature support. And that's why when we practice these 10 characteristics of Sanatana Dharma that I just mentioned, we get nature support. And then because we get nature support, we evolve at a much faster rate to reach higher states of consciousness. So Sanatana Dharma helps both ways. It helps us when we are alive by enhancing our evolution in this lifetime, and also it helps us after dropping the body. How? After we drop the body is returned to the Pancha Mahabhutas in cremation, and Atma remains free and unbounded. And because of that reason, there is no rebirth, no return to the cycle of birth and death. Then death loses its miserable significance. Some of us may be having a fear of death. And I would like to read a quote by Maharishi, which helps us to let go of this fear of death. Maharishi said, quote, "When someone dies, it is because at that point, their karma has become insurmountable in the present body. It is not possible to understand why death had come and when it did. And there is certainly no point in assuming responsibility or guilt. The course of action is unfathomable. However, especially for someone on the path of speedy evolution, the transition is purely evolutionary. They go to the celestial realms or are born almost immediately. When life leaves the body, it is the breath, prana, leaving. And we know from our practice of meditation that when we are transcending, when the mind is settling down and transcending, we find that our breath becomes very fine. So for one who has been accustomed to this experience for many years, meditating, breath becoming finer and finer and transcending. And when you're transcending, really, your breath is so fine that some people feel like they're almost not breathing. So because we are in the habit of transcending, the transition is easy. Here, the transition means transition of dropping the body, going from this body. In other words, transition here means death, dying. So that transition of dropping the body, it becomes easy, painless, and blissful. And it's not catastrophic. Dropping the body is like letting a bird out of its cage. The bird which had been imprisoned in this body, the Atma, that is in the cage of body, now it is let loose. It is free. So for family, grief is natural. At first, when grief is deep and sharp, these emotions of the family and friends allow the soul to feel that they were loved very deeply. It is also natural that the grieving should taper off, allowing the soul to feel that their passing was not a drag on the life of their beloved ones, and that they are free to move on to their destiny. It is important to feel positivity and support for the departed soul wherever they may be, because our attitude affects their evolution. This is end of quote. So the bottom line is, Dharma will provide a solution to any problem at any stage of life's evolution. Okay, so I'll stop here, and Anitaji, would you like to do the scientific research, please?
Okay, Maji. In this very interesting scientific research, we find that a normal human being, we have the desire to change jobs, to change professions, because there is a lot of fluctuations in our mind. We feel we are going for a better job and we'll get more salary and more. So here, through Maharishi's transcendental meditation, there is a decrease in the desire to change jobs. Because already in a job, you are at a certain point of your dharma in the process of our evolution. Now, if you change, immediately your dharma changes and your evolution starts from beginning again. And then again you change, then again it starts. So what Maharishi says through his transcendental meditation, there will be decreased desire to change jobs. There will be more self-acceptance. There will be more self-satisfaction. There will be more increased social, ethical, and moral values. There will be increased emotional stability and maturity. And when you develop all these qualities, and you also have enhanced self-regard and self-esteem, then you will see whether desire to change your jobs or professions or what confusions you have in your mind, this will all be overcome or decreased through Maharishi transcendental meditation. Thank you, Jai Gurudev.
Okay, thank you, Anitaji. That was a beautiful piece of scientific research. Are there any questions from the audience? If anybody has any questions or appealing point that you liked in what we discussed, please go ahead. Okay, looks like no questions. So we'll move on to the next shloka, 36. Who is doing the next shloka? Manishji or Ghansham?
जी दीदी
पढ़िए 36.
जी दीदी ओम अपि चेदसि पापेभ्यः सर्वेभ्यः पापकृत्तमः सर्वं ज्ञानप्लवेनैव प्रजिनं सन्तरिष्यसि.
नहीं
This
वो
is
नहीं
not
था
the one.
ये
This
नहीं
is
था
not the one.
अथकेन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पुरुषः.
हाँ जी. Arjuna watch.
फिर से कहना, ये अथकेनम प्रयुक्तोऽयं 36 of 3rd chapter.
जी दीदी
हाँ
3rd chapter दीदी.
हाँ
इसमें गलत दिया दीदी क्या?
हाँ जी.
मैं पढ़ूं क्या? Okay, I will do it.
नहीं दीदी मैं कर रहा हूँ.
हाँ फिर तैयार रहना.
जी दीदी. अर्जुन उवाच अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पुरुषः अनिच्छन्नपि वाष्णेय बलादिव नियोजितः. ओम
Jai Gurudev. Arjuna said, what is it that impels a man to commit sin, even involuntarily, as if driven by force? O Varshneya. Varshneya, Sri Krishna Bhagwan, a member of the Vrishni family belonging to the Yadava clan. It is essential and practical question that Arjuna asks. He wants to know what force it is that is driving on Duryodhana and his supporters and may cause him personally to commit the great sin of killing his kinsman. A thief knows that he is committing a sin and that this will result in punishment. Yet he is not able to resist. Why is this? Having heard the deep philosophy of the separateness of the inner divine self from the field of activity, and having clearly understood from the previous verse that it is dangerous for the self to fall from its dharma of eternal existence into the sphere of dharma, in the ever-changing nature of the three gunas, it amazes Arjuna to see that this truth of the separateness of the self and activity, which is the natural state of life, is not manifest in the daily lives of the people. It is this which makes him ask the question in the present verse. He wants to understand the force that robs man of the reality of his existence. Jai Gurudev.
So we see this happen all the time. We know that some people knowingly do wrong actions. For example, everybody knows that stealing is bad. But still, some people steal. They are only looking for immediate gratification, immediate benefit of getting money by hook or crook. They are not thinking that, oh, no, I should not be stealing like that. So Arjuna is asking, why are they doing it? Because he knows that it is dangerous to fall from dharma. It is not dharmic to steal. And Sri Krishna Bhagavan answers that question in the next few verses. So any questions on this? Scientific research.
Yes. The scientific research says that what impels a man to commit sin. So now it is that if we do transcendental meditation, then there is a decreased return to commit that sin. So you will be less into prisons, you will be lesser on parole violations, decreased prison disciplinary rule infractions, effective rehabilitation of the prisoners, and improvements in addictive disorders. Because what impels you to commit a sin is therefore decreased through Maharishi transcendental meditation. Jai Gurudev.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. So we move on to the next one. Who is reciting? Is that Ghanshyamji now? Are you taking turns? Unmute, please. घनश्याम or Manish ji? कौन कर रहे हैं? काम एश क्रोध एश.
जी दीदी.
हाँ बोलो.
ओ श्री भगवान उवाच काम एषः क्रोध एषः रजो गुण समुद्भवः महाशनो महापाप्मा विद्येनमिह वैरिणम्. ओ
Jai Gurudev. The blessed Lord said, it is desire, it is anger, born of Rajoguna, all consuming and most evil. Know this to be the enemy here on earth. Rajoguna, Rajas, one of the three gunas of nature. It is responsible for motion and energy. It is desire that establishes contact of the senses with their objects and thereby influences the self by way of attachment or aversion. Verse 34, which in turn create a spur to activity involving the self. Self consciousness, unmanifested pure consciousness, manifests as vibration. Consciousness vibrates and becomes conscious mind, and a thought arises. The process of manifestation continues, and the thought develops into a desire. Desire is vibrating consciousness set in motion and channeled in a particular direction. It is all motion superimposed on ever motionless pure consciousness, and this is by virtue of Rajoguna. When the flow of a particular desire is obstructed by another flow, energy is produced at the point of collision, and this flares up as anger, which disturbs, confuses, and destroys the harmony and smooth flow of the desire. Thus, confusion is created in the manifested field of reality, and the purpose of manifestation, which is the expansion of happiness, is marred. The very purpose of creation is thwarted. That is why anger is called the enemy by Sri Krishna Bhagavan. It is like a whirlpool in a river which threatens to upset the smooth flow of everything passing along it. It is like fire which burns up everything in its path. Anger is said to be the great evil, mutilating the very purpose of creation. Here, desire and anger both stand accused, whereas anger destroys the purpose of creation. Desire keeps the mind floating in the field of sensory experience and is therefore responsible for the mind's involving the self with action unless the self has gained stability in its own nature. And thus, the natural eternal freedom of the self is overshadowed. Desire in the state of ignorance overshadows the pure nature of the self, which is absolute bliss consciousness. And this keeps the life in bondage and suffering. All consuming, this expression is preceded by born of Rajoguna. This implies that since Rajoguna is responsible for the functioning of Sattva and Tamas, since Rajoguna lies at the basis of all the constructive and destructive forces of nature, desire having its source in Rajoguna also has the natural capacity of either supporting the whole field of the three gunas or overthrowing their entire purpose. Sri Krishna Bhagavan here does not discuss the upholding and supporting aspect of desire because in the present context, he is analyzing its very nature as bringing the self out of itself. As such, it is all consuming and most evil, for it overshadows the real nature of the self and so obscures absolute bliss consciousness, the true nature of life eternal. The nature of desire, as brought to light here by Sri Krishna Bhagavan, applies only so long as one has not gained enlightenment. It is only true of a seeker, an ignorant man, and not of a realized man. When one gains a realization of the self as separate from activity, desire ceases to be the enemy here on earth because it is then upheld only by the three gunas, while the self remains completely free from its influence. In the remainder of this chapter, Sri Krishna Bhagavan continues to reflect upon the nature of anger and desire, and eventually shows a way to conquer these enemies of life. Jai Gurudev.
Here in this shloka, Sri Krishna Bhagavan is explaining that it is Rajoguna that is responsible for desire and anger, and that these two are great enemies. So let us review now what we learned about gunas in second chapter. We learned that there are three gunas, and they are sattva, rajas, and tamas. The entire creation consists of interplay of these three gunas, and they are in Prakriti. And these gunas carry out the process of evolution. So we keep using this word evolution all the time. What is evolution? Evolution means going from a lower state to a higher state, moving forward, progressive development. We are growing, say in knowledge and happiness and whatever we are going to a higher level, having better life. So for this evolution to take place, these three gunas are acting amongst themselves. And of the three gunas, Rajoguna is the one that starts the action. It can support sattva or tamas. And if we recall, sattva means purity, peace. All that is good is sattva. When you are having more and more sattva, you have more peace and more happiness and more purity in you. And because of these reasons, you progress, you are evolving, you are going higher up. So Rajoguna can support sattva or it can support tamas. And we recall that the qualities of tamas are dullness, negativity, violence, laziness. So these qualities increase when Rajoguna supports tamas. And in this case, instead of progressing, you go downhill because you are taking on the qualities of tamas, and because Rajas is supporting tamas. And the other qualities of tamas are anger and desire. They are tamasic qualities. And if you get lucky and your desires are fulfilled, then you are fine, you are happy. That means Rajoguna is supporting sattva. You have desires and they are fulfilled and you are progressing. But if the desires are not fulfilled, then what happens? One becomes angry and frustrated. And because of this anger, the whole purpose of creation is ruined. Because what is the purpose of creation? It is expansion of happiness. So that purpose is ruined. That's why Sri Krishna Bhagavan says that anger is a great enemy. So that's one enemy, anger. Now the other enemy is desire. It is also an enemy because it keeps mind floating in the sensory experience. All the time you have one desire, that's fulfilled, you want to go for the next desire. And this way it's always keeping you in activity. It's keeping you in the outside world. And it overshadows being. And this keeps life in bondage and suffering. Here, the nature of desire applies only to non-meditators. And for seekers, before enlightenment, like they're still in sadhana, they're not perfected yet. But this situation with desire, it does not apply to the enlightened people. For enlightened people, desire is not an enemy. We talked about it in the other sessions, and we will talk more about it. But in this situation, it is important to understand that the desire in the stages of before enlightenment, that's when it causes frustration, when it is not fulfilled. So now, in the next few verses, Sri Krishna Bhagavan tells us the way how to conquer these two enemies. Okay, so we'll have scientific research and then questions.
Yes. So the scientific research here says that since anger and desire are the enemies and we have to conquer for an ordinary human being, because they will decrease your personal and professional satisfaction. So to personal and professional satisfaction through Maharishi transcendental meditation, we will see that how we will be able to conquer desire and anger both. And it will create increased happiness, increased contentment, and a more balanced mood. Thank you, Jai Gurudev.
Okay, any questions? I thought somebody will ask me what is how we can decrease rajas and how we can increase sattva, like that. Nobody's asking. So there are ways how we can balance the doshas. When the doshas are out of balance, then that will create a problem leading to suffering. So Anita ji mentioned in the scientific research about Rajoguna and all that, the best way to balance the doshas is by meditation. Mind settles down and we are cleansing, purifying, stress is going out. And so tamas is decreasing and sattva is increasing. So meditation is the best way to increase sattva. And there are other ways of increasing sattva, because when there is more sattva, it dominates rajas. When there is more sattva, rajas goes down. And so it won't cause so much trouble. So both rajas and tamas, they decrease when sattva increases. So one way to increase sattva is meditation. The other ways to increase sattva is listening to Vedic recitation. The other way is food. There are many foods that increase rajas, like eating too much mirchi and things like that. Sattva is increased with pure foods like milk and fresh fruits and vegetables and almonds and moong dal, sesame seeds, and dates, figs, nuts, like that. So these, if you include regularly in your diet, that will increase sattva and ojas in the body. Ojas is the substance that increases sattva and it produces that beautiful glow in the face. And tamasic foods are meats, alcohol, and leftover foods. And all these, they increase tamas, they increase laziness and all that. So a little bit of attention on food also balances the doshas and it helps to improve health also. So that is the way to balance the doshas, and it improves health and also it improves spiritual progress. Okay.
Hemaji, I have a short question here.
Yeah.
If we imbibe in ourselves the characteristics of the Sanatan Dharma, it will also work on our well-being, because that will take care of our mental well-being. The food and all will take care of the physical well-being. So will not there be more of sattva developed in us?
What did you say? What about sattva?
when we follow the characteristics or imbibe those characteristics in our own self,
Yeah,
the characteristics of Sanatan Dharma, like you said,
yeah,
will that also contribute towards better sattva in us?
absolutely. All the
Yeah.
qualities, when we develop them, like you said, there is mental aspect, mind and intellect, and then the physical aspect, the body.
Yeah.
So both are interdependent. What we have, the physical well-being affects the mental well-being, and mental
Right.
affects the physical. So because with the Sanatana Dharma, the characteristic features, the mind is getting more and more established in
Purified.
Sattva, or with all those beautiful characteristics. Yes, in that
Right.
there is
Right.
Vedadhyana, Veda part is there, Satya, Akrodha. Akrodha is non-anger, so that means Rajas is not there. And self-control, when somebody feels like, oh, I don't want to eat at home today, I want to go have pizza and beer, that's bad for health. And all those things, by exercising a little bit of self-control, like, oh,
Control.
eating at home is good, it's more healthy. And it's not a serious self-control, like you're coming down hard on yourself. It's just, you follow these easily. Sometimes it's just common sense, and sometimes it's just using proper judgment, not just a control issue. So that's the correct point. Good point you brought out. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Somebody else has a question? Somebody wants to say something?
Jai Gurudev, Hema.
Maria, go ahead.
Yes, sorry, I'm so late. But I was just thinking, because it was like you were reading my mind there, because it's always that question of relaxing into something or being disciplined, and just bringing up that point that you say it's not a serious thing, but we just have our attention on it. It comes to what Maharishi says, give the impulse and let go. That's one of them that I find we can apply to everything. So just giving the impulse with this and also relaxing about it, because that's very important. And then the other aspect that Maharishi gives is knowledge is structured in consciousness. So as we raise our level of consciousness, it automatically comes that we'll make those distinctions. Because I think that is a very prime factor in all of this, is that we want to relax. As Maharishi said, the whole of life is learning how to relax. So having that in mind with all these principles, it's also important to relax into it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes, that that word relax and relaxation is very important in evolution. There is a small joke I want to tell. Once Maharishi was in press conference, and one press reporter asked Maharishi, Maharishi, how does it feel to be enlightened? He said. So Maharishi said, it's pretty relaxing, he said. So when you are enlightened, you are totally relaxed, you are not anxious about anything, and you're not frustrated, you're not stressed out. You're just relaxed, take life easy. So relaxation is very, very important, in sadhana, in our life. And I want to ask a quiz to all of you. The most important thing in sadhana is our meditation. We all know that. What is the next most important thing in sadhana to rise in higher states of consciousness more quickly, fast? We want to evolve fast, right? We all want to be enlightened soon. What is the next most important thing you do after meditation? Anybody wants to answer that?
Action.
What did you say, Maria?
Action for integrating.
No, even
Take
before
life as it comes. Take life as it comes. Take it easy. Take life as it comes. Hello, Maria. Jai Gurudev.
That also comes next to what I'm going to say. What I have on my mind is what Maharishi said is rest. Rest is most important. So Maharishi always emphasizes you should get plenty of rest. Some people don't get rest. They stay up till night. They have to get up early in the morning. They have to rush to work. And some people stay up to have fun, like watch movies or news or things like that. And they work hard all day. And most people that I know of, they just don't get enough rest. They don't go to bed on time. If you don't go to bed, and Maharishi also said this, he said, he quoted an English proverb. He said, early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. It's a very simple proverb, but it makes so much sense. And that is very important. That is like part of Vedic daily routine. Early to bed means, Maharishi says, you should go to bed, between 9:30 and 10 and wake up early in the morning. If you go to bed early, you'll wake up early. And Maharishi never says you have to get up with alarm in Brahma Muhurta, but all scriptures tell you best to get up early in the morning before sunrise. And if you get up before sunrise and if you do your program, you get excellent results. Excellent results, because the whole air is different at that time. The whole vibrations are different at that time. You get very deep into meditation. And that early morning, you get up and you open the windows and you feel that fresh breeze coming in. Wow, it's a great experience. And if people are sleeping until sunrise, until after sunrise, they miss out on all that. So early to bed means you get plenty of rest. So these are all the things, small things. Maharishi never says, don't eat meat, get up early in the morning, Brahma Muhurta. Not like that, because he's already telling us, take it easy and not external controls and all that. But that doesn't mean that, I can do whatever I want. I can get up anytime I want. And not like that, there is wisdom in all these small things. They help us to progress rapidly in evolution. Okay, I think we should move on. We are running out of time a little bit. If there are no more questions, can we move on to the next shloka? That will be the last one for today. Or let me, hold on. We have one more shloka, two more shlokas actually.
Yeah,
And
38 and 39.
Yeah,
38 and 39.
Yeah. We will stop here because we still have a few minutes meditation and then Vedic chanting, and we would like to stick to that routine. So we'll stop here. We'll do brief.
Remaji, the 38 verse is a short one. I think we can cover it in 3-4 minutes.
No, we want to do
No?
few minutes meditation and then we want to do Vedic chanting for the chapter. It will take 10 minutes. Yeah, we will cover these next time, Anita ji.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so let's close eyes and do few minutes meditation, and then we will have a third chapter recitation. जय गुरुदेव। Jai Gurudev. Can we have Vedic recitation, please? Third chapter recitation. Manish ji.
जी दीदी। ओ पार्थाया प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवत् गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः। अथ तृतीयोऽध्यायः। अर्जुन उवाच जायसे चेत् कर्मणस्ते मता बुद्धिर्जनार्दन तत् किं कर्मणि घोरे मां नियोजयसि केशव व्यामिश्रेणेव वाक्येन बुद्धिं मोहयसीव मे तदेकं वद निश्चित्य येन श्रेयोऽहमाप्नुयाम्। श्रीभगवानुवाच लोकेऽस्मिन् द्विविधा निष्ठा पुरा प्रोक्ता मया नघ ज्ञानयोगेन साङ्ख्यानां कर्मयोगेन योगिनां न कर्मणामनारम्भान् नैष्कर्म्यं पुरुषोऽश्नुते न च सन्न्यसनादेव सिद्धिं समधिगच्छति न हि कश्चित् क्षणमपि जातु तिष्ठत्य कर्म कृत कार्यते ह्यवसा कर्म सर्वः प्रकृतिजैर्गुणैः कर्मेन्द्रियाणि संयम्य य आस्ते मनसा स्मरन् इन्द्रियार्थान् विमूढात्मा मिथ्याचारः स उच्यते। यस्त्वेन्द्रियाणि मनसा नियम्यारभतेऽर्जुन कर्मेन्द्रियैः कर्मयोगम् असक्तः स विशिष्यते। नियतं कुरु कर्म त्वं कर्म यायो ह्यकर्मणः शरीरयात्रापि च ते न प्रसज्येत कर्मणः यज्ञार्थात् कर्मणोऽन्यत्र लोकोऽयं कर्मबन्धनः तदर्थं कर्म कौन्तेय उक्तः सङ्घसमाचरः सह यज्ञा प्रजाः सृष्ट्वा पुरोवाच प्रजापतिः अनेन प्रसवध्वम् एषवोत्तिष्ठ कामधुको देवान् भावयतानेन ते देवा भावयन्तु वः परस्परं भावयन्तः श्रेयः परमवाप्स्यथ इष्टान् भोगान् हि वो देवा दास्यन्ते यज्ञभाविताः तैर्दत्तान् प्रवेयभ्यो यो भुङ्क्तेस्तेन एव शः यज्ञशिष्टाशिनः सन्तो मुच्यन्ते सर्वकिल्बिषैः भुञ्जते त्वं पपापाये पचन्त्यात्मकारणात् अन्नाद् भवन्ति भूतानि पर्जन्यादन्न संभवः यज्ञाद् भवति पर्जन्यो यज्ञः कर्म समुद्भवः कर्म ब्रह्मोद्भवं विद्धि ब्रह्माक्षर समुद्भवं तस्मात् सर्वगतं ब्रह्म नित्यं यज्ञे प्रतिष्ठितम् एवं प्रवर्तितं चक्रम् नानुवर्तयति ययः अघायुरिन्द्रियारामो मोघं पार्थ सजीवते यस्त्वात्मरितदेवा स्यात् आत्मतृप्तश्च मानवः आत्मन्येव च सन्तुष्टस्तस्य कार्यं न विद्यते नैव तस्य कृतेनार्थो न कृतेनेह कश्चन न चास्य सर्वभूतेषु कश्चित्थदव्यव्याश्रयः तस्मात् सक्तः सततं कार्यं कर्म समाचर असक्तो ह्याचरन् कर्म परमाप्नोति पुरुषः कर्मणैव हि संसिद्धिम् आस्थिता जनकादयः लोकसंग्रहमेवापि सम्पश्यन् कर्तुमर्हसि यच्चदाचरति श्रेष्ठस्तत्तदेवेतरो जनः स यत्प्रमाणं कुरुते लोकस्तदनुवर्तते न मे पार्थास्ति कर्तव्यं त्रिषु लोकेषु किञ्चन स यत्प्रमाणं कुरुते लोकस्तदनुवर्तते न मे पार्थास्ति कर्तव्यं त्रिषु लोकेषु किञ्चन नानवाप्तम् अवाप्तव्यं वर्त एव च कर्मणि यदि हयं न वर्तेयं जातु कर्मण्यतन्द्रितः मम वर्तमानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्याः पार्थ सर्वशः उत्सीदेयुर्मे लोका न कुर्यान् कर्म चेदहं शङ्करस्य च कर्ता स्याम् उपहन्यामि मा प्रजाः सक्ताः कर्मण्य विद्वांसो यथा कुर्वन्ति भारत कुर्यान् विद्वांस तथा सक्तश्चिकीर्षुर्लोक संग्रहं न बुद्धिं वेधयज्ञेयान् ज्ञानां कर्म संगिनां जोषयेत् सर्वकर्माणि विद्वान् युक्तः समाचरन् प्रकृते क्रियमाणानि गुणैः कर्माणि सर्वशः अहङ्काराविमूढात्मा कर्ताहमिति मन्यते तत्त्ववित्तु महाबाहो गुणकर्म विभागयोः गुणा गुणेषु वर्तन्ता इति मत्वा न सज्जते प्रकृतेर्गुणसम्मूढाः सज्जन्ते गुणसर्वकर्मसु प्रकृतेर्गुणसम्मूढा सज्जन्ते गुणकर्मसु तान् कृष्णबिन्दो मन्दान् कृष्णभिन्न विचालयेत् मयि सर्वाणि कर्माणि सन्न्यस्याध्यात्मचेतसा निराशी निर्ममो भूत्वा युध्यस्व विगतज्वरः एमे मतमिदं नित्यम् अनुतिष्ठन्ति मानवाः सिद्धावन्तो न सूयन्तो मुच्यन्ते तेऽपि कर्मभिः एत्वे तदभ्यसूयन्तो नानुतिष्ठन्ति मे मतम् सर्वज्ञानविमूढास्तान् विद्धि नष्टा न चेतसः सदृशं चेष्टते स्वास्याः प्रकृतेर्ज्ञानवानपि प्रकृतिं ज्ञान्ति भूतानि निग्रह किं करिष्यति इन्द्रियस्येन्द्रियस्यार्थे रागद्वेषौ व्यवस्थितौ तयोर्न वशमागच्छेत् तौ हस्या परिपन्थिनो श्रेयांस्त्वधर्मो विगुणः परधर्मात् स्वनुष्ठितात् स्वधर्मे निधनं श्रेयः परधर्मो भयावः अर्जुन उवाच अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पुरुषः अन्निच्छन्नपि वार्ष्णेय बलादिविनियोजितः श्रीभगवान् उवाच काम एषा क्रोध एषा रजोगुणसमुद्भवः महाशनो महापाप्मा विद्येन महिवैरिणं धूमेनाव्रियते वह्निर्यथादर्शो मलेन च यथोल्बेनावृतो गर्भस्तथा तेनेदमावृतम् आवृतं ज्ञानमेतेन ज्ञानिनो नित्यवैरिणा कामरूपेण कौन्तेय दुष्पूरेण नलेन च इन्द्रियाणि मनोबुद्धिर्यस्याधिष्ठानमुच्यते एतैर्विमोह्य तत्येषा ज्ञानमावृत्य देहिनम् एतैर्विमोहयत्येषा ज्ञानमावृत्य देहिनम् तस्मात् त्वमिन्द्रियाण्यादौ नियम्य भरतर्षभा पापमानं प्रजह्येनं ज्ञानविज्ञाननाशनम् इन्द्रियाणि पराण्याहो इन्द्रियेभ्यः परं मनः मनसस्तु परा बुद्धिर्यो बुद्धेः परतस्तु सः एवं बुद्धेः परं बुद्ध्वा संस्थाभ्यात्मनमात्मना जहि सत्त्वं महाबाहो कामरूपं दुरासदम् ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्म विद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुन संवादे कर्मयोगो नाम तृतीयोऽध्यायः। ओम श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु। जय गुरुदेव। हरे ओम माधो शांतिरन्तरिक्षगो शान्तिः पृथिवी शान्तिरापः शान्तिरोषधयः शान्तिः वानस्पतयः शान्तिर्वृषभे देवाः शान्ति ब्रह्मा शान्तिः सर्वगुं शान्तिः क्षमा शान्तिरेधि जतो यतः समीहसे ततो नो अभयं कुरु सन्नः कुरु प्रजाभ्यो भयन्नः पाशुभ्यः। हरि ओम। ओम शांति शांति शांति। जय गुरुदेव।
Jai Gurudev. Thank you all for joining. All can come on cameras now. We'll say Jai Gurudev to Maharishi together.
Jai Gurudev Maharaj.
Jai
Jai
Gurudev.
Gurudev, Jai Mataji.
Jai Gurudev Bindu. Thank you for reading. Thank you,
Jai
Anita ji.
Gurudev.
जय गुरु दीदी।
Jai Gurudev, Bela, Maria.
Jai
Jai
Gurudev.
Gurudev.
Thank you, Anita ji, for reading and
Thank
for
you,
your science research.
Hemaji. Jai
Thank you.
Gurudev,
जय
and I'm so
गुरु
happy
दीदी।
to see Maria participating today.
Mm.
After long, I heard her.
Thank you, Anita ji. Jai
Love you, Maria.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
जय गुरुदेव दीदी।
Jai Gurudev Manish ji, nice chanting, third chapter. And we'll meet next week. Next
धन्यवाद
week,
दीदी।
same time.
दीदी
Same day, same time. Jai Gurudev.
जय गुरुदेव दीदी।
Jai Gurudev.